You ready to roll?
It's on.
Season 1, Episode 1 of Yo and D RAPS. I'm Jeff, Frank, Mike. We're going to talk about some college football, focusing mainly on Notre Dame, but we will sprinkle in other topics. So to the tens of people watching this, look forward to hearing your feedback at the family reunion. But we will get started. Let's just jump right into Notre Dame season since it's upon us. What are you guys looking at? What is your prediction this year? A lot of new things going on. New OC.
Record-wise, 10-2.
10-2.
Yeah.
And the losses are
At home, Ohio State and USC.
Clemson on the road. You're giving the W to. And they're not going to drop the
Quarterback
range.
the difference.
What about you, Frank?
I don't want to get pegged down on one thing. They could go 11-1. They could also be 8-4.
If you had to make a prediction, where are you?
They're going to be somewhere in between. I think the quarterback play obviously is going to be upgraded. I still have concerns over the defense.
Do they lose the 3 big games guaranteed? Mike,
No, they don't. But I have a hard time seeing them beat Clemson on the road.
I agree
And
with
that's
that.
not an indictment of Notre Dame. That's just, you're going into Clemson. I think they're going to have their quarterback situation straightened out. That's a tough ask. I do expect them to go down there and beat competitive.
I think they're losing a random game this year.
That's
I think they could win one of the 3, but I think they're losing a random game this year.
I think they can play with both Ohio State and USC, and if they play at a high level,
But
they
if
can
you
beat
look
both
at
those teams.
if you're looking at the schedule though, I mean honestly, other than the big 3, who are they? NC State, I get whatever.
Duke's
But
the tough one.
Duke's,
I agree with
Duke's
that.
a tough game, and it's the week after Ohio State. Regardless of the outcome of that game, they got a great quarterback. Elko's really upgraded them. It's down there. It's a different vibe, and you're on the road.
So you're going 10-2. You're not getting locked down. I think they're doing 8-4, honestly. I think they're
And I
losing
can
the
see
3
that
big
too.
games, and I think they're gonna. I can't tell you who, but I think they're just gonna lose to somebody else, which is gonna be a disappointment for a lot of people because of Sam Hartman.
Then they got problems.
Yeah, they do have problems because then we get into the quarterback. Next year, you're gonna have another quarterback.
And that's a program question that we can get into about how we got to this point and where they go after this season. I'm just looking at the 12 games and the bowl game they have this season. It could be 9-4, it could be 12-1. I don't think they're a playoff team. I think they could be. I think they got talent. How much is Hartman elevate them? He's going to elevate.
Are they gonna run, or are we just chucking the ball everywhere?
Well,
Parker went to throw.
if we're transitioning into the Navy, I think you're gonna see a lot of balls in the air, and that's gonna be discipline. And if I'm betting on that game right now, don't think Notre Dame's covering that spot.
Wow, they're just covering that.
I hope so.
And
So we're gonna do it. We're gonna do a Navy prediction next week, but for now, just touching on the Navy just a little bit. I just have a little question for you two. These two have been to a lot of games. Have you guys witnessed Notre Dame lose to Navy? Who here has been in the stadium? All right, what year?
07 and 09.
So you've seen 2. How many times have they lost to Navy now? 10
Well, that
or 12?
13, I think it is, but there was a stretch. They lost to Navy 3 out of 4.
Yeah, right. Like 7, 9,
It
and
was,
10.
and 8 was a little closer.
So you guys only saw them once in person.
7 and 9, we saw.
All right.
Wasn't it 97 or Awesome State?
No, that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was the Hail Mary at the
Yeah,
end
and
of
there
the
was
game.
one, Jay Johnson got a,
Fourth down,
down,
that
that
was
wasn't-
99.
Jerry Jackson.
That
Yeah,
was the
Jerry
99
yeah,
game.
so.
So there's been
There should have been more else.
And if you really want to go back, the game in 84 was, they really should have lost that game.
Let's review. You guys have both seen Navy lose to Notre Dame, so this leads me into the next question. What's the worst loss that you have ever seen Notre Dame take in person?
I know, Frank. I wasn't there.
Was he a 90?
The Syracuse.
08 Syracuse was a good game. So. Oh, I know people say 07 Navy, but there's a couple things. You look at it in context. At
Yeah,
that
no,
point
I
in
know,
the
they
season,
fired.
the '07 Notre Dame team was terrible from right out of the gate.
Oh, wait.
Oh, no, '07.
Okay.
And so when Navy beat them, the fact that the season Notre Dame was having at that
Yeah,
point,
yeah, right.
combined with the fact that you knew at some point, the math says the streak's going to end at some point. It was bitter, but okay.
Syracuse was terrible.
Oh, Syracuse.
Syracuse was terrible.
Bad, really bad.
You drove all the, were you at Syracuse that year?
No.
No, neither was I. And then what's your worst loss? What's your worst L in person?
I don't know, I'm not really prepped for that. The one that sticks out is what was the year of the Michigan game we went to where they ran a reverse and one guy didn't block for two?
That was '07.
They got
The second play of the game.
destroyed. It was really embarrassing because we left early because
We left at
screw
halftime.
them. That they ran the football. James Aldridge had like 60 yards rushing in the fourth quarter, so that they purposely would not set the all-time record for least amount of rushing yards in a game.
Mine is 0-2 BC. There's no doubt about it, and you were next to me for that game.
But again,
That was a terrible game.
Yeah, it was a turd.
Dillingham, that pick
Well,
threw, was that the
well,
odd?
You
Was that that odd
well,
guy
from
from
BC.
BC?
You had Dillingham at quarterback.
and you knew, and Notre Dame was living a
I
lot.
do, but
But
living a lie, but you're gonna get exposed at home to BC is where you lose.
They show up.
I mean, Notre Dame's offense that year was Ryan Grant bludgeoning people.
No, I hear you, I
4
hear you.
yards a carry. What do you have, like 230 carries?
I will leave that up to you as being the expert, which I am.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
he was their offense. They made very few big plays downfield. So Holiday goes out of the game. Now you're stuck with Dillingham, and they weren't dynamic on offense anyway. The table was set for that to come.
Frank, where are you watching the Notre Dame game?
Here.
Possibly.
Why possibly? What's the other?
Where are you going to go?
Yeah, where are you going?
Well, I do like to take them. No, I'm not. I'm not
But
so it's to be.
And what time does it start?
2:30.
CBS.
I don't even know. Who cares?
Or is this a Notre Dame home game? Maybe then, 2:30. But it's gotta be a home game, right? Anyway, yeah, we're not wrapped up on that.
It's not
This isn't the
Shamrock
episode
series.
for it.
So
I feel you
it's
on
not
that. Doesn't matter. But, all right, so this takes me to the next topic then. We're talking about worst losses, and I'm not going to mention anything, but I was watching some podcast or some kind of discussion about Notre Dame football, and they went around the panel, and the question that they laid out to everyone was, what is, if you could reverse one of these two games, which game would it be? And of course, in 1989, Notre Dame was defending national champs, riding a 22-game win streak, went into Miami and took an L 27-10. 27, it was 27.
23.
What was it? Oh yeah, 23, because they ended up going 24-1. All right, sorry about
They
that.
ran for 425.
Told you I
went
went
to state college.
State. So, state. So anyway, they took that L 27-10 at the OB to Miami, and then the next year, or excuse me, the other option is the 93 Notre Dame Boston College. So ND, of course, had just beat Florida State in the game of the century, and then took an L 41-39 to Boston College. David Gordon, 41 yards, I think it was, nailed it. Anyway, which game of those two would you reverse, and tell me why? So I'll start with Mike.
It's 93 BC. Anyone that says different was without oxygen for an extended period of time at some point.
So I will say this, I'll preface this conversation, although you just brought it, or you gave your opinion, I will say that the panel of so-called experts that I watched said it was 89 Miami. And before I get into it, I disagree with that. So Frank.
Well, I didn't see the panel, but what I will say, I must have been the one that was hypoxic then, because I say it's 89.
I don't understand how.
For a couple of different reasons. It's
And I respect, before you go here, I respect your knowledge. This guy rattled off Terry Brennan's record
there's no doubt.
on command.
There's
Most Notre Dame fans don't know who Terry Brennan is.
there's no doubt that the 93 BC game stunk.
Dude, at home to BC.
There's no doubt. But you look at what the impact, the bigger impact to the program would have been. The 89 team was
Phenomenal.
It's the best Notre Dame team in my lifetime.
All right, I
that
agree
would
with
be
that.
my argument. So they're defending national champions. You've won 23 games in a row. If you find a way to go down and defeat Miami, which was a tall order, and there was no shame in losing to them.
That's my argument for it. There's no shame in losing
But-
to Miami in
But
1989.
that loss hurts because you had a chance to go back-to-back national titles, and that '89 team, they ran the gauntlet with their schedule.
They did. Their schedule was unbelievable.
People point to the '93 BC game.
Apparently, no one does except for Mike and I.
No, people point to the '93 BC game because Notre Dame was undefeated #1 going into that game, much like '89. The difference is, I felt confident in '89 that even after the loss to Miami, whoever Notre Dame was going to see in the bowl game, they were going to beat them. Because Miami was just, they were
lit. They were ready to roll that night.
They were an
They were ready
incredible
to
team. The difference is that Notre Dame team really struggled to throw the football. I think they had 2 touchdown passes the whole year. But in terms of talent, their ability to run the
Michigan,
football,
Anthony Johnson.
he was one. And I'd have to look and see who the other one went to. I can't even name it.
Probably it was during SMU
But-
in '89. I think they scored every way possible in that game.
But the point to the whole thing is people look at the '93 game and then they look at the drop-off that occurred in '94.
Why not look at that?
To me, one's not connected to the other. And the reason is the recruiting drop-off was coming either way because Vinny Serrato had already departed the program at that point. And the recruiting, you could see it was down.
Go ahead, jump in.
Yeah, 94 was ugly, but 95, that was a really,
They were loaded.
really
Dude,
good
they were
Notre Dame
loaded.
team. So,
And their schedule was stacked that year. Texas, Ohio State, US.
Their schedule was stacked that year, but that '95 team, and even the '96 team, which had a ton of hype, they weren't complete teams.
95 was pretty stacked.
95 was,
Dude, their linebacking core,
they got
all the way
exposed by
across.
Ohio State.
Yeah,
who
but
was-
they woodshedded USC. But,
Yeah.
but the problem is at that point,
Who won the Rose Bowl versus Northwestern?
the problem is at that point
Keyshawn.
is
Brad Otten. Who was their quarterback now? Brad Otten.
it may have been brother.
Brad Otten. Heck, I'm disappointed you're on camera now, and that's a may have been. That's right up your alley.
Yeah, well,
What high school did you go to?
I was trying to think.
It wasn't Brad Otten?
I was trying to think of who Northwestern.
It wasn't that. What was that Kyle,
Yeah, it's
Kyle, someone with a W.
Kyle Orton.
No, from USC. The Kyle,
No,
watch
I'm
it.
not saying that. Kyle Orton.
It's like a Polish last name, right? Yeah. I think it was Otten.
So anyway, it's immaterial, but
38-10.
the recruiting piece was starting to trail off by the time that BC game came.
But dude, it's
And
BC at
had
home.
they-
the week after
absolutely.
the Knowles.
But had you beaten BC, the gift of that was you were going to be #1, and now we were going to go into a rematch
With Florida
State on a neutral field. And
They still beat them.
my confidence level, as good as that team
Right,
was,
they
the
waxed
confidence
Florida
level
State.
of beating Florida State, it was no guaranteed national title.
That was physical
89?
domination.
You get by Miami,
Yeah, it's a title.
you're winning a title, and it's back-to-back, and
I can't get over the timeline of Irish football. Lou had it going so smooth, and then David Gordon hit that kick, and then it just.
it was.
and
But in
just-
my mind, some of that stuff is
Plus,
coincidental.
it's one of their worst losses in history, so you got to reverse that.
horrible loss. You make that comeback, Pete Bursich dropping that pick. I mean, there's so
It's
many
one of the worst
opportunities.
losses in history. So
And-
that's
and-
the one.
And
It
the
was
beauty
one
of
of the
that,
worst losses because of what was at stake. But the other piece of this is
Dude, it was
BC was a ranked team.
yeah, they're like 17.
They were coached very well, and
But
They
dude,
had no business playing.
and let's be honest,
Right.
even back then, when quarterback play isn't as important as it is nowadays,
bring up Glenn Foley in the show.
Glenn Foley was a
Foley.
better quarterback than Kevin McDougal, and I love Kevin McDougal.
Notre Dame was better than them at every other position on the field.
And here's the other thing: BC didn't win another game. They lost to West Virginia the next week, and then went and lost to Tennessee in the Citrus Bowl. I want to say,
Plus,
and they got waxed.
plus the other point was there was the revenge factor from the game in '92.
I was at that 54-7.
And that left a bitter taste in their mouth.
Right.
So,
They just left
so
it.
you got BC coming in with something to prove because they had lost the prior year by 47 points. And you got Notre Dame coming in for a senior day game the week after defeating the #1 team in the country. It was a perfect trap game.
I agree with that. I mean, it was a perfect trap game. I just don't think like
The loss
losing to
still
Miami
stings.
on the road just in '89 is really join the club. Everyone was taking out.
You beat Miami in '89, it's a guaranteed now.
I hear you.
Notre Dame's winning.
I think
the whole
93
thing
was too,
going
though.
after that. And the '89 team, was better than the '88 team.
I agree with that, but you could also say that if had '88 Notre Dame played Miami on the road, they were taking that L as well.
Yes.
Because it could be argued the '88 Miami team was better than Notre Dame, just like it could be argued the '89 Notre Dame team was better than Miami. I think it was just a luck of the draw where that game was played. You know what I mean? Like if '89 is in South Bend, Notre Dame's a national champion. '89 in '88, if it's in South Beach, Miami's a national champion. They just went back to back.
The point to the thing is, and you can argue it all day. The point to the other, that 5 or 6 year run there between '88
Was
and
insane.
'93 was.
Look at the bowl games, the teams they played,
And when you
From
look at their
87 to
schedule and
95,
the success
and the
they
schedule.
had,
and the schedule.
I mean, they lost, 9 games in 6 years? I think it was.
And to the who's who, with the exception of Stanford L's, but the who's who.
No, and even then, they dropped games in between
'Cause didn't-
there in '90 and '91 that they shouldn't have
The
And
90
those
and
were still
91
good
teams
teams.
are some of the most disappointing Lou Holtz years.
because of defense.
Oh, Gary Darnell, of course.
Offense, they were pretty dynamic.
They were scoring 40 a pop in 91.
Yeah.
Everyone they played.
But
they were
in a
scoring
lot of
40.
games, a la '91 Hawaii, they were having to outscore people.
40,
So
48, 42.
something like that, yeah. And
Mike
So-
Tyson lost to Buster Douglas.
Did he lose that night?
Yeah.
You're kidding me.
Yeah.
That was.
I was just a young buck then. I do remember waking up and the newspaper was there and being like, holy cow, Mike Tyson
In
lost.
Japan.
I was like, yo, Mike Tyson lost. I was nuts.
so,
That's funny.
like I
didn't know that.
said, it's an interesting conversation, but
It's really not. It's 93 BC. I don't respect your opinion on that, Frank.
I see your point to it.
Yeah, you should. You should.
I was as disappointed with '89 as I was with '93, but
What'd you do that?
I'm not like
what,
all
what did
these-
what did you? What happened?
I'm not like all these people that sit there and say, "Oh, well, that was just the black cloud over their head for '94." '94 was a completely different season. Number one, you had a new quarterback.
I
You
agree
had
with
a new
you.
offensive lineman, and
But-
they had a ton of injuries.
But here's my thing. So 94. Did they open up with Northwestern in 94? Yeah, they
Yeah.
did. Oh, so that was a Soldier
at
Field.
Soldier Field.
And then they lost 26-24 to Michigan in South Bend or something.
But the problem with Northwestern that you knew in '94, they win that game 42-15, and you just look at the score and you think, oh, it's the same old Notre Dame. But you read the box score, and they couldn't run the football.
I hear you, but at the
Beckton
same
had,
time,
if I remember correctly, 16 yards rushing in that.
But it-
Eno.
but at the same time, that
Ronnie's
North,
going to win more than 2
Yeah,
Heisman.
Well, that's the other thing. And then all the hype with Palace.
I hear you, but
Palace-
listen, 94. So 93 Northwestern played Notre Dame tight. 94, I think Northwestern had a terrible schedule, or record. I think they were like 3 and whatever, 4 and whatever. But they were much more competitive. That was a better Northwestern team. And then of course 95 is when they transitioned and they lost to Toledo,
No.
but beat everyone and then lose to
Well,
USC.
95. They
I'm just saying that wasn't your typical like rollover North. You guys might laugh at this. This isn't the typical Northwestern team.
No, it wasn't. And the
Like they were
94 game.
a poop record, but at the same time, you could just tell they were headed. It was like 86 Notre Dame. Their Colts.
So
Like
they're-
85 with Fouts, they were 5-6, but Notre Dame's 5-6 and 86 was way different than 85.
So those Northwestern games in '93, '94, and '95 is
93
'93 was a tight
Tough
game.
game.
That game wasn't sealed till Bursich returned.
and
to
McDougal making his first
And-
start.
And '94 really was Notre Dame out athlete.
What was the name of that quarterback?
Mike Miller.
Lee
Larry
Dust?
Mann.
No, Lee Dussinger or something. What was the name of the quarterback?
No, Lee Gissendaner was the wide receiver. Len Williams was.
Len Williams. That's what it was.
But
Yeah.
'95 is when they put it all together.
Oh, no, I agree.
And
I'm just saying that, like that '94 Northwestern team. Again, going back to what you said, you look at that score, which just looks like
in the 92 game for the first
Yeah,
half
92.
of the 92
No, it was like
game,
tied or something.
it was close, and then Notre Dame
42-10 or
won 42-7, but at
Right,
one point I
42-7.
think it was 14-7, and then Notre Dame just stretched them in the second half, and Northwestern didn't have an answer for it. But that program incrementally every year, you could see them coming along, and even though nobody expected them to do what they did in '95 after they beat Notre Dame,
they took an L to Toledo.
that
dude.
all
They took an L to Toledo.
yeah, and then after they beat Notre Dame, I think the belief was there, and that team took off.
Did they
I
won
mean,
at
they
Michigan
dominated.
that year too? They won at Michigan, at Notre Dame, Ohio, Penn State at home, like 21-10 or something. So yeah, no, I was impressive. Well, anyway, let's shift out of this. We've beaten this horse a little bit. What are you looking forward to most in college football in 2023? What's one thing? Multiple things, but what's one thing that just? Can I tell you? I want to give you one thing. I'm looking forward to see how LSU does.
They're overrated.
I think a lot of people are that are Notre Dame fans because
Well, of course, this isn't. It's not unique. I think LSU fans are wondering what the hell's going to happen after last year. But
because Kelly is a polarizing person to the fan bases of both LSU and Notre Dame.
So, sidekick real quick to go along with that, and you're correct, Frank. And this is going to lead to the next thing. Tyler Buckner at Alabama. I mean,
But he may not start.
I thought he was. Didn't they say he starts?
I haven't read that.
I haven't read
You
that.
have to assume. I haven't read it. He's not. Let's just say he does start though. That's pretty intriguing. And then to have Buckner down there,
Well,
you know,
and
Tuscaloosa,
again,
LSU.
Because Saban will just have him handle
I
it.
agree. Saban is going to cover for Tommy wanting to throw all the time. He's going to put his foot down. I do agree with that.
it's going to be interesting to see what happens there because whatever success Buckner does or doesn't have at Alabama, in my mind, brings me back to one of the things that's really held Notre Dame back the last 10 years.
Which is,
Quarterback
QB
development.
There's none.
I
If
agree.
you go down the list, since Kelly became the coach in 2010,
It's
if you go down the list
Dane
of
Chris.
the people he had on his roster or inherited in Dane Chris' case, but you go through just for people that are into recruiting rankings and stuff,
Yeah, Golson, Wimbush.
which has some standing in this. But if you go through Kelly's career at Notre Dame, one of the things that really always held them back was quarterback development. I mean, 2012 with Golson, Notre Dame relied on an incredible defense. Statistically, the best defense they had there since the '88 team. But if you go back and look at those games, there was a reason why they played very conservatively because I think they knew ball security with Golson was an issue.
Yeah,
And
but I
that
think if they would have had that,
manifested
I think if they would have had that
itself.
same approach in other years of Brian Kelly's tenure, they would have won more games.
They would, but Kelly's
throw.
Kelly's philosophy was he wanted to open up the offense, and I get all that. He just it seemed like there was always a tug of war there because
Did they never
What
went
you wanna
downfield
do-
while Kelly was there?
what you want to do scheme wise doesn't always match up with what you have personnel wise. And again, this comes back to, hey, it's great to want to run this wide open offense, but
You
you
got
got to
people
have
to
a
do it.
quarterback that can do it. And some years he did. Deshaun Kaiser in 2015, who at one point was the third string quarterback, came in, had a great year, but there were a lot of turnovers in the red zone. He was first year starting quarterback. Kids make mistakes.
Why are you throwing it?
Solid question. But
So what are you looking forward to this year? What are you looking
I
forward
want
to
to
this
see,
year?
it's more than wins and losses. I want to see Notre Dame take this step, the next step as a program. So Kelly's transitioned out. He's gone. And you know what? For as lukewarm as I am about Brian Kelly, he left Notre Dame in a much better place
Absolutely.
than he inherited.
Absolutely. I'm a Brian
Now,
Kelly hater, but I agree with that.
Was I the biggest Brian Kelly fan?
You
in the
loved
world?
him.
No,
You
not
loved him.
necessarily.
You loved him.
I don't think he was the guy that was going to take them all the way to the
He's not going to take him to the title.
However, having said that, he took them a long way.
Agreed.
Now, in year 2, we're going to find out is Marcus Freeman.
Does Marcus get a pass this year in year 2? And when I say a pass, if he's 8-4,
It depends what the 8-4 looks like.
so let's just say we have a similar pattern to last year. You get that number 1 upset, or the top 5 upset with Clemson, but you have that
You
just
can't drop any.
because everyone wants to point to the Marshall game last year, but I firmly believe it.
Stanford games.
Yes, and that's where I was going to go with this. If Stanford played Marshall, Marshall's winning the game handily. So why are we're so focused on Stanford because they're Power 5?
And the Stanford game is disappointing because of where it occurred in the season, and it was a step back for them after they put
The
some
offense,
momentum
my
together.
God, you're just sitting there watching,
But-
and you're like, what?
But the issue
What are we
becomes
doing?
for me is I think Freeman's the guy. I like Marcus.
I like him a
I
lot.
like the way he
I think the
handles
jury's
himself.
out on him, but I
I
like
think
him.
he represents the university
Sure.
well.
Just win titles.
And I think he's somebody that could be
What are you
a force
shaking your
on
head
the
about?
recruiting track. But the
Everything
issue
Frank's
is-
describing is all Notre Dame wants. They don't care about titles.
But the issue
It
becomes
doesn't matter if you've been.
I agree that they're interested in money. That's
At
the
the
only thing
end
they're
of the
interested in
year,
is money.
at the end of the year, regardless of record, and some of it's record because you want to see improvement numerically, but is this team, this version of this team, better than the 22 version? Is the trajectory going up? I have questions about that. I don't know that he has the staff that he wants in place yet.
If we go 8-4 this year, we're doing it with a better roster, and that's what scares me about 8-4 this year.
Well, it depends.
I just think the talent level has increased since
Hartman gets hurt and you 8-4.
Bro, and
Okay.
this takes me back. So Notre Dame now is entering 4 years in a row of a new starting quarterback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At what point is Notre Dame going to develop a queue? Now, I wanted an overview of college football in general, but here we are back in Notre Dame. Anyway, year number 4, we're having our 4th starting quarterback. Are we kicking the can down the road here? Hartman's gone next year regardless. Who do they open up with in 23?
Texas A&M.
Yeah,
It's
A&M.
the first game, and it's down there, I believe.
So you got a first-time starter, more than likely, unless there's an injury, who's going to be kicking off at College Station.
You gotta
It's
hopefully get these kids reps this year.
Which Tommy did try doing a little bit
Which
last year with,
brings-
2 years ago with Buck.
brings into another thing is,
Briefly.
that's when you talk about this season.
Their quarterback room is young. It's as talented as it
As
has
what?
been in the last 10 years.
Right. Well, I don't know if
With
that's saying a
Minchie,
whole lot.
it matters.
I agree it matters, and that takes me back to me saying with this roster this year, because I feel like the roster as a whole is slowly just an uptick, and you look at that blue chip ratio that they always say.
Certain positions are terrible, but
Yeah, but whatever. Overall, Notre Dame has a better roster on paper, if we're looking at the rankings and everything, than they have. It's improved steadily since Freeman has been there.
It has.
Even as a coordinator.
I don't think it has.
Oh my God, it absolutely has. They have
No,
athletes.
he's signing Brian Kelly-esque classes
I disagree with that.
at key positions, D-line and safety.
So you can go into, and we could do a whole other show on this
Let's do it.
about the recruiting. But then, if you're looking at Notre Dame within the rest of college football, the one thing that is a little bit different at Notre Dame is you're not going to get 5-star defensive linemen.
Why?
You're just not.
No.
Dude, they lost all
So-
Justin
and
Scott.
you could do an episode.
And that was a money thing. Let's be
So-
real. He
so
took the money, and I
The
don't blame
issue
him.
becomes, and this is what I was just saying about his coaching staff, the issue becomes you identify the players that fit your profile, and then you have the staff in place where you're getting player development. And
Which the jury's still out on.
one of the things to BK's credit, he was able to get kids in there and develop some kids that weren't very high on the recruiting radar. And he made them, they played prominent roles in Notre Dame. He did a good job of that.
Yeah, but he
That
virtually
was- that
struck out on every 5-star.
Yeah, and you need 5. They don't care about winning titles.
So you could go, like
Elaborate.
They don't care about winning
Go
titles.
ahead,
They
go.
care
This is-
about
preach.
money.
but this is
I
another
agree.
episode. We're talking about, and we'll have to get into that, but as it pertains to this season, Hartman's going to take you as far as you're going to go. And the reason I think so, I'm not sold on the defense.
The jury's out on
I'm not
Bowden.
sold on the defense. If
They
there's
don't have the guys.
if there's one thing the defense could do that would help them out, it beyond anything else, is play better red zone defense this year. Because last year they were atrocious. Opponents got inside their 20-yard line, it was almost virtually guaranteed they were staying in the end zone.
Agreed.
So any improvement on that end is going to translate in a different outcome of these games. But
So you
Notre Dame's going to have games this year where they're going to have to outscore people, and Hartman gives them a better shot at doing that versus the quarterback situation they had last year.
I'm just
Even
talking
before
about
Buckner got hurt.
titles. I only give a shit, care about titles. And they don't. They
Again,
don't.
this is another episode.
Well,
But
Yeah,
we
listen,
can
let's
do
say
it.
all
listen, red
but
zone
the
defense
20
gets you past Stanford.
But-
Congratulations. Guess what? Ohio State is sticking it in the end zone.
Regardless.
You don't have
Because you don't
Keelan
have-
Keeley's. You don't have Justin Scott's. And you need those guys because they got them.
Yeah, no,
They
you
do,
you
but
do.
the issue was last year is Ohio State was probably outside of Clemson maybe, and I still say Ohio State was their best defensive effort of the year. They squandered that.
It was week one.
Because
and Ryan
their
Day's a
offense-
loser.
And they decided just to run between the tackles.
Yeah.
They were like,
But-
they already had who was it got hurt for the year? The
And
receiver.
Jigba.
But
Right. So you already lost, like, we can control the line of scrimmage. Let's just pound this out. Get out of
Oh,
here. No
that's-
injuries.
But the offense,
They could have scored. That's my
but
opinion.
here was the thing with that. Ohio State did what they had to do to win, and you knew when Notre Dame was up 10-7 at halftime that the offense was going to have to participate more.
Which
for
they
them
did.
to win that game, and that's the problem. And Ohio
The
State,
play calling ensured.
Ohio State
The play calling
correctly
assured
realized,
that.
look, we can play ball control because
First
Notre
play of
Dame's
the game, you
offense
throw
is-
down.
And then that's it.
And then
And that's
more.
it.
That was it.
And guess what? You can't run
And you
because
can't
they know you're not throwing.
Exactly.
They know you can't throw. Well, they never gave him a chance.
Yeah, they could have. Who knows? We don't know. Anyways, listen, we got off topic. So I said name something in college football, and I should have been more clear. Something in college football that is not Notre Dame. What are you looking for?
Penn State's first loss.
All right. Besides the obvious of that, and when's that going to be, dude?
I
Their
actually
schedule.
want to see how good Penn State is this year.
Is that
It's
what,
going to be tough.
is that what interests you the most? Can I ask why you
Well-
think it's going to be tough? Because here's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid Notre Dame's year, Notre Dame's 2023 is going to be very similar to Penn State's 2022. And what I mean by that is Penn State lined up and played two teams with pulse last year, and they lost to both of them. And then they went 10-0 versus, just the losers, the NC States of the world.
Okay.
Notre Dame's lining up for that. Notre Dame's lining up for 9-0.
Notre Dame's got a way. You guys are discounting Phil Hartman. I'm a big Phil Hartman fan. Phil Hartman, he's dead. You know what I mean. Sam.
Phil Hartman.
Well, Phil Hartman was better than.
It is Saturday.
They were trotting out a quarterback last year.
It
Let's
is
be real.
Saturday.
I just
Sam Hartman is the difference.
All right, let's
I
get
think
that.
utilize him, right? He's way better than Sean Clifford ever dreamed of being. So
Okay.
it's not an apples to apples comparison.
Packers
Penn
shot him,
State's
bro.
defense, to counter that, is way better than Notre Dame's defense could ever dream of being.
Okay.
But quarterback play matters, and no, it's not the same. And Penn State just upgraded their quarterback in a major way. And he's going to make mistakes. But you got Nick Singleton.
You're going to have a first-year starter, and
You got Nick
regardless,
Singleton
regardless of how good
the
the
other guy.
quarterback is or isn't, it's tough to win at a high level with a first-year starting quarterback, especially
They don't play
now,
anyone until November.
especially now in college football,
Brock,
because the game is.
You go ask them now. Oh, dude, Iowa,
Oh.
Minnesota, West Virginia. Yeah, you want to talk about the lock of the year spread-wise. Penn State is 20.5-point favorites versus West Virginia. That is just without a doubt the best thing ever. That's the easiest game to pick of all time. and I'm going to be all over it.
And I
for
want
the
to see,
spread.
and I want to see, getting back to what you said earlier, I want to see what LSU has this year. They're getting a lot of preseason hype.
Yeah, top 5.
Jake
Oh,
Daniels is back this year at quarterback. This is his 4th year of college football. I mean,
It's Brian Kelly. They're not winning a title. It's the bottom line. Just go look at the Texas A&M game last year. They're not winning a title.
well, we're going to see did they upgrade special teams?
No,
That
it's Brian
cost
Kelly.
LSU last year.
It's Brian Kelly. Literally, LSU is the least of my
Special teams
concerns.
haven't been his home.
National.
I would make
Brian Kelly's at the helm. Congrats. You'll
Who's
do
their
good.
quarterback?
Yeah.
Well,
Do you know what's scary?
He's
though?
good.
he ain't good enough to run the offense they want to run.
Yeah, but listen, here's the thing that Brian Kelly was correct. It is much
Plus, the other
easier to
thing
win a
I'm curious
national
about-
title at LSU. First off, we can get into the academics and all
Well, they
that.
care.
They care. But even last year, they have 2 losses, and we're talking about them getting into the playoffs. At Notre Dame, you go undefeated. We're talking about Notre Dame not getting into the playoffs. And that's a joke. That's a joke. He had to lose 3 games before they were eliminated from the playoffs.
And he managed to do it.
And he will continue to do that. He
So-
will continue to do that. That guy is a loser. A loser.
So, when you're talking about resumes and schedules, when you're at LSU, in terms whether it's real or imagined or whatever, the perception is you get deference from playing in the SEC.
Of course, because you have
Whereas-
Kentucky ranked top 10 every September because they're
Whereas-
4-0.
When you look at Notre Dame's schedule this year,
It's horrible. Notre Dame's schedule this year is horrible.
the thing I'm disappointed most about, and
Tennessee State.
talked about the Tennessee State game, is
Horrible.
you can't afford to play 1AA teams
That's your boy
the way
Slow
the
right there.
landscape of college football is.
Well, everyone else is. What do you mean you can't afford to? Everyone else is.
They're not in the conference. Everyone.
Because the argument that's been made against Notre Dame the past couple of years, they're not in a conference, you're not playing in a conference title game, you don't have that extra data point. That's been played ad nauseum.
I mean,
Right, wrong, or indifferent, that's the perception that's out there. So don't feed into it by scheduling a 1AA team. I don't think that's a luxury you have.
I agree.
And
I
that
agree.
part of it disappoints me. That's a game, you don't need to schedule a heavyweight, but you need to stay Division I.
I agree.
And that's one calling card that Notre Dame's had up until this year, is they never played a 1AA team. And
Now who is it? Is it USC? It's the only one now.
I think it might be USC.
Yeah, it's
Because
USC.
Michigan State.
Or UCLA. I know it was USC,
UCLA.
UCLA, and Michigan State. Michigan State's gone. They played
They
Youngstown.
came off a couple years ago.
Yeah, they played Youngstown.
Ohio State,
No,
I mean,
they've been
excuse
out.
me, USC a couple years ago was tentatively scheduled to
Cal
play
Davis.
UC Davis, and then they reversed course. But again, they're in a conference.
So what?
Notre Dame's got a different set of circumstances. You can't feed that narrative playing 1AA teams.
I agree.
That's my opinion.
Well, that's
So-
going to wrap it up. We're going to wrap it up, and the next time you guys see us, we're going to talk a little bit more about Navy, and we're going to go in on Navy, which hopefully will be next Saturday. So the 26th, when Notre Dame opens up at 12. You guys have anything to say before we wrap her up?
No,
Excited for the Irish? Excited for college
I'm
football?
excited for football season.
While we still have conferences?
One of the episodes we need to do is my enthusiasm for college football is increasingly becoming somewhat tempered
Yeah, of course.
because of everything that's going on.
Of
And like I
course.
said, that's another,
And you
that's
got
a separate episode
you got
to
to do
get
everything
into.
through
But
ESPN. I mean,
I think Notre Dame's going to have a good team this year. I expect them to be better than last year. And whether or not they're a playoff team, at the end of the season, I want to be able to sit there and say, this team can compete against the top teams and additionally beat them. And I want to see a path that, okay, we're on the trajectory where we can be a playoff team. And to me, that's what's at stake this season. I think Marcus, I think he's the guy until proven otherwise. I think he needs to tweak his staff. And
He's done that.
obviously you can talk about, yeah, but some of it he
We'll
did.
see.
Did he do it on his own, or did he
No,
do
I
it
mean,
because
but did he
had
have Tommy
to?
Reese on his own?
But there's a lot of question marks
He needs to take control of his staff.
about the staff. And
You need to
maybe
tell
he
someone
is,
to
and maybe he
stop
isn't.
throwing the
And
football.
we're going to see the results on the field this year. But I think, to the average fan, I think there's some cautious optimism about the staff, what it's going to look like, what the offense is going to look like this year. The offense needs to come along. It needs to be improved.
Defense needs to come along.
Because you're not
It all needs to come along.
replicating games like you did against Clemson last year, where you're getting blocked on 7 times.
Yeah.
And you're stealing games with special teams play, and you're going to be able to beat teams thrown for under 100 yards a game. That's not the way the game's played now. And, you know, they snuck a couple of those in last year. You're not going to do that week to week. You've got to be dynamic on offense. That's where the game's at.
And let's hope that they are dynamic, and we will see everyone next week with another episode of YoND Raps. So to the 10 people out there, thanks for joining us.
I think you're a little optimistic with 10s.
Yeah, just like the
Be
season
real.
prediction.
Yeah. There's probably as many people watching this as there is going to have wins.
All right. We definitely need